Hi, I'm Tom Hendrickson from the Agile Online Summit. Today, I'm joined by Ben McDougal, an experienced entrepreneur and author of You Don't Need This Book. So, Ben, introduce yourself to the people here at the Agile Online Summit.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, my name is Ben McDougal. It's a treat to be here. I have a collection of hobbies that pay. We'll talk a little bit more about my entrepreneurial journeys and also my experience being an entrepreneur, an author, and community builder.
Excellent, excellent. So to start us off, Ben, let's talk about why did you write this book?
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. I have one as well.
And signed by the author too.
Yes, indeed. Those are available with direct orders over on benmcdougal.com. But the why behind this was like this growing weight that I felt as I was part of course, my own entrepreneurial ventures, and that those are a fun kind of narrative to begin with. But I was beginning to be a part of so many other inspiring stories from other entrepreneurs and people building things they cared about. And I was starting to get concerned that all the understandings in my mind were going to be potentially wasted. And even if it was just to pass along to my little startup that pays in love, like I wanted to synthesize everything I understood about entrepreneurship, translate that with that lens of our connected era. And so it was a project that took 1.25 years, but I'm so thankful. Like I remember on release day, April 1st, 2021, the sense of peace, like here it is, right? Here's this relic that I can pass along. And it's been well received. It's been so rewarding to, of course, hear from folks like yourself and others that it's making a positive impact. But once again, I'm just so thankful that I was able to synthesize this narrative. And the title is true. You do not need this book. Entrepreneurship is best learned through action. But if you're looking for like a friendly jolt of innovative energy, whether you're a student, an entrepreneur, or an entrepreneur, this might give you a couple of key nuggets to take away as you continue to build.
Yeah. And I like that you talk about a lot about the community in here, because I think that's a big part about what we do here at the Agile Online Summit. We're really a community of people who, think somewhat alike. We're in a similar industry, but you talk a lot about that importance of the community. So Ben, talk to us about how that's really affected your journey.
It's the key to unlock entrepreneurial ventures. Entrepreneurship is a lonely roller coaster, right? And so if you're a contractor, you're kind of out there making magic, but you're also somewhat lonely at times. And so being around others who get it, learning from within the community and connecting dots to do more with less is what community provides. And so it's just this ongoing support mechanism that can accelerate your work while providing the camaraderie within a tribe. And so plugging in, finding those tribes is a good first step. Being willing to commit and being generous in those realms to build trust and potentially even grow into those leadership opportunities is a really powerful way to just kind of caffeinate your entire career portfolio, providing like experiential wisdom from others and energy that can propel whatever you're working on.
Yeah, I think you touch on a lot of good stuff there, Ben. I want to point out something really important, I think, is you mentioned about getting involved and volunteering, kind of being part of that community, because, you can give and also you will receive a lot as well. So it's kind of a two-way street that you get involved, right? And then you also get a lot back.
Yeah, generosity leads to trust. And so while it's sometimes hard to commit, even if it's just time is the one resource we can't get more of, right? So it's like the ultimate. I should have never said just in front of time, but it is something that you can give to others. Maybe it's a connection, maybe it's an introduction to a customer, whatever it might be. Being generous has like allowed me to accelerate others, which is an unmatched energy. And so being willing to be doing that, kind of giving first without the without the agenda, that of course, is energizing, as we've talked about, but also just seems to unlock interesting conversations that lead to opportunities that you might not expect. And so instead of always having this, like, all right, say I'm in web development. All right, I'm going to talk to this person as in a networking type of a way so that hopefully we can work together. Maybe release that. Maybe just be interested in what they are up to and ask more questions, talk a little less. And as the connection evolves naturally, there could be potential to collaborate, but always trying to network yourself with this interest in your own in your own benefit often comes off just like that. And so if you can release yourself from that a little bit and be a little bit more genuine in your curiosity, it often leads to more interesting conversations and more natural connections that will either lead to direct opportunities to collaborate, or I know Tom, you got to know Tom, right? When I'm talking to Kate, and connectors become connected. So when you get pretty interested in the art of connection, you triangulate yourself between others. That's an interesting place to be in, and naturally positive opportunities land your way.
Yeah, that's so important. It reminds me, I remember going to a few networking functions, and you'd have the person that was, maybe they were just starting in sales or something, and they were like just trying to give, 100 cards out. It's like
that business card in your shoulder. Yeah. And like you see them again and they drive another card in your shoulder.
It's like, okay, enough. Oh, so good. So Ben, you talk about in the book, and I think we have some personas here on the Agile Online Summit that I want to talk to you about. So one of our personas that we see a lot of are Scrum Masters, or what I like to call the Susie Scrum Master. So we have the Scrum Master. Sometimes it's a woman, not always, but it's usually someone who's a full-time employee. And you talk about in your book, Entrepreneurship. So tell us and maybe give us some advice to those people that they're not an entrepreneur yet. They're just in a company, but they want to, maybe bring some ideas or use some of these principles that you talk about.
Yeah, entrepreneurs are like the unicorn in a balloon factory, right? They are the champions of change. They recognize the opportunity to stay ahead of that innovation curve. But sometimes, especially early on, they might not be running at the speed of trust within that organization. And so a tactic that you can think about as you look to explore ways of creating positive change for a company you care about, being entrepreneurial truly within that spirit, but working at small little ways of, hey, here's an idea, but also I'm willing to step up and execute. So it's not all about the talk. It's not all about these crazy big ideas. It's actually building the trust by executing around those things. And even after 1, 2, 3 projects where you've shown your ability to execute, you'll be given a longer leash to get a little more creative. And so I think entrepreneurship is almost an undervalued or not talked about enough, because you're really using that entrepreneurial spirit to create positive change within that company. And so entrepreneurs must feed off of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, right? They need to be a part of a startup community. They should be welcomed by entrepreneurs because they share opportunities between each other. And on the company side, perhaps you're a manager tuning in, creating action, fueling that entrepreneurial and intrapreneurial activity will give them kind of the nuggets to keep building in a positive direction for your company. Look, oftentimes people overlook the fact that it's a blessing to have employees or contractors helping to build your dream. And so being appreciative of that and recognizing that this individual cares enough, is loyal enough to provide their own insight and willing to champion that change into reality, sometimes that's forgotten, and it shouldn't be. It's a neat opportunity to accelerate those entrepreneurs in a way that allows them to activate their ideas. And your company will stay ahead of the innovation curve when entrepreneurship is not only agreed upon, but is encouraged. And you'll lose some entrepreneurs who decide to be entrepreneurs and go out and build their own things. But that should be celebrated as well. We are all able to do more with less in our connected era. And entrepreneurs often start side hustles, which is kind of the introduction to entrepreneurship. And just elevating that, being aware of it, having an understanding and caring enough to let folks explore their own ideas within existing companies is valuable in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. I got to give them space. So just to pivot a little bit. So we have another persona that I want to tell you about here, Ben. We have a lot of people that are agile coaches. So I like to think of it as Al, the agile coach. So just to kind of let you know, the agile coaches usually are a solopreneur. They're usually someone, they're going into companies, contract maybe for a couple months. They're trying to help out, like you mentioned, creating change in organization. And then they're off to the next, company or organization. So give us some advice because I know you talk a lot about that in the book, Solopreneurs.
Yeah. I call them lone wolves. The idea of building something you care about on your own. Look, a lot of people will say you need a team to succeed, but I'm here to tell you, you can make a powerful impact and add a cool collection of slivers within the pie chart that you can think of as your career portfolio as a lone wolf, as a solopreneur. It requires another gear of energy because you might have other things that you're working on. So being very conscious of your personal bandwidth, recognizing that your activities will change in the amount of time or resources they require so that you don't dilute yourself to mediocrity. One good example is like, think of you have enough time to swing an axe 100 times. Would you like to swing at 100 trees, a single swing? Or might you make a more powerful impact by swinging at a handful of strategic trees with those 100 swings? So that's a good way of just always being conscious of your personal bandwidth. And I know we're talking to a lot of tech forward type of personalities. You can do a lot. Yeah. And so it's understanding the opportunity cost of saying yes and being very conscious and transparent with the way that you spend your time will allow you to be more effective in the areas that you determine are most valuable. Thinking also about the fact that you don't put linebacker at wide receiver. So I think being bold enough to recognize where you're good at and perhaps areas that you're not allows you to plug back into the community and potentially find allies that can help you do more, even if it's not your own personal work. And then you think about, okay, as this idea grows, when is the right time to potentially explore co-founders, to build into a team and potentially expand the capabilities by working with more people? And I will say, the lone wolf activity is super possible, and there's no drama in your decision making. Yes, no, I can do this.
Yes.
However, when you start to build into a team, oftentimes co-founders allow you to do more. And so perhaps you're a developer, but you're not as much interested in pursuing the sales side of things or running the accounting, all the other things that go along with business. There might be an opportunity to partner up with someone. And the longer you wait to explore that, knowing it takes a while, the farther down this path you will have traveled. And it might be harder for someone to come in with the same level of passion when they're so farther behind the bus that you've been driving. And so being around co-founders, being around your community, is a good way of exploring potential co-founders, even if it's not yet. Right? Tom and I start to get to know each other. We're working on separate things, but we're having a brew together, and all of a sudden an idea sparks. Yeah. All of a sudden we've got a chance to work together on perhaps a new project because of the interactivity that you've explored within the community.
Yeah, that's good because, like you said, sometimes you might not think you need a co-founder or somebody else to work with you, but just kind of, making those connections, you never know where some things will lead as your organization grows or your career grows.
Yeah, and take your time, right? It's like a marriage, right? We're not rushing into bad ideas. Yeah. Work with that other individual. Maybe attend a hackathon together. Maybe go on vacation and see how this person interacts with their family or how they treat, the server at a restaurant. Yeah. You're not trying to slow down progress, But if there's equity being exchanged, this is a long-term strategy that should be well thought out, and even recognizing that this story will end. Maybe it will be a sale. Maybe it will be closing things down. Maybe it'll be something in between.
Yeah.
But being very transparent, even when there's a few more unknowns, that can lead to less friction in the future.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Now, you touched on this a little bit before, Ben, and you talk about it in the book. You talk about career portfolio and this career nirvana. So talk to us about how you've kind of developed yours, and then maybe how we can do the same.
Yeah. I was in a driving on down the road, and that term just kind of came to me. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel such a sense of gratitude, such a sense of peace. And I was like, man, it's like I'm in this state of nirvana. And so connecting career to the term nirvana just felt like this ultimate balance between your work, between your family life, and between your community. And I had reached this point where I was, had a collection of activities that all felt like they were connected through me. And so one of the exercises that I talk about in the book is identifying your career portfolio and thinking of it as a diverse pie chart. I'll bring this up real quick to give you a sense of how I spend my time. Sure. This is a good exercise that should not exact math, of course, right? But how I work with 1 Million Cups as a regional rep to help support and connect about 47 different communities across 12 states. Now Techstars, and leaning into these founders that are looking to accelerate their own companies. My own entrepreneurial ventures, Flight Brights and Craft Beer. We built an electronic beer flight paddle and have a beer festival app. Open connects realtors with home builders as a scheduler for open houses. The book was built under Pour Over Publishing, and even my long-term work in the video game event space with Jet Set Studio. And so that activity allows you to keep your career portfolio balanced. And it's a pretty interesting place when you basically reach a point where no one can compete with being you. Yeah. There's 3 ways to retire, Tom. One is you can collect enough cash to cover your bandwidth, your burn rate of life. That's what most financial advisors will suggest. There's another way of reducing that burn rate down to 0, but not everyone's down for being a monk. And then the third way, which is perhaps the most accessible, is finding work that feels like play. If you can find that balance and being able to work on things that you're passionate about, while others perceive it as valuable and are willing to contribute financial capital into your work, then it's much less about the dollars being made and much more about the work that just is your practice. And that's a pretty neat state to be in. Which is fueling from passion and leading to that ultimate wild card that I finished the book with, persistence. This is what I've seen to be the ultimate wild card for entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs, the willingness to continue, the resiliency to continue building. It is the ultimate path to your own version of career nirvana.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. You've shared a lot with us, Ben. Any closing thoughts?
Ooh, closing thoughts. I mean, I sign all my books, may the best of your todays be the worst of your tomorrows. I believe that there are so many opportunities for us to be happy, to be wealthy, and using work in order to achieve those things. There's I think it's Buddha or Naval shares it in his writings, but we all have 2 lives, and the second one begins when we realize we only have one. And so feel free to connect with me. I'd love to learn more about how you're spending your time. If I can help connect or accelerate your work through anything that you're up to, it'd be a true honor to hear from you. And Tom, people can connect with me through you. Thank you again for the opportunity. But I'm also writing and trying to continue to make a ruckus over on benmcdougal.com.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much, Ben.
Cheers.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. On behalf of Ben McDougal, I am Tom Henriksen for the Agile Online Summit.